Is it on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Newmarket Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting for Thursday, June 27th, 2013. And the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Review and approval of minutes from our last meeting, May 20th, 2013. Entertain a motion in regard to the minutes of our last meeting.
Make a motion we accept as presented.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, we're going to move on to our regular business. First thing, we're going to appoint our two alternate members to sit on the application this evening. That is Mr. Shelton and Mr. Brett Johnson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to take a look at the application
I have.
materials and you feel prepared to go forward?
I do.
Fantastic, thank you. For the folks at home, this is the application of Joseph and Elizabeth Valinsky. It's a public hearing regarding property located at 32 Huckins Drive, tax map R5, lot 107 in the R2 zone, for variances to permit the construction of a retaining wall in the front yard along the northerly boundary of the lot. Two variances are being requested. One concerns section 5.02C4 of the zoning ordinance, as the proposed construction will impact a 25-foot buffer around soils considered to be poorly drained soils or hydric B wetland soils. The other variance request pertains to section 5.03F, which allows such construction by a special use permit, provided certain conditions are met. Because those conditions call for a mitigation plan for increasing wetlands buffers elsewhere on the site, and/or the perpetual protection of an area of off-site wetlands, conditions which cannot be met, the applicant is requesting a variance from this section of the zoning ordinance as well.
Mr. Chairman?
You were going to bring up the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just wanted to bring it to
5.03.
your attention that there's a typo in the notice, and I wanted to, in the second paragraph, the second line, it should say one concerns section 3.0, section 5.03, paragraph C, subparagraph 4.
Oh, so it's
Instead of-
5.03C4, not 5.02C4.
I wanted to note that for the record.
Thank you.
I did go looking for that. I couldn't find it.
Sorry about that.
Threw me for a loop
That's
about
all right.
15 minutes.
Well,
It's one of the it's one of the double secret ordinances.
you should have called us.
Do we have all the abutters been notified?
All the abutters.
And we have return receipts from mail delivered to
Yes,
all of
we
the
do, Mr.
abutters?
Chairman.
And you specifically checked that?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to receive this.
Okay. Whoever's going to speak, please step up to the microphone, state your name, your authority, and then tell us why we should be granting these variances.
My name's Adam Cullinane. I will be the installer of the wall. I work for myself. I own Adams Eden's Creative Landscape Construction. We're out of Dover. I'm speaking for Mr. Valinsky, the owner of the property, and we're just trying to apply to get the permit to build the wall there. Apparently it's within we've had it tested by GZA, and it's within a wetlands buffer, so we'd be disturbing some of the area during construction of the wetlands buffer area, and then and like the other part of the zoning ordinance, it calls for the area to be mitigated, but we can't, the way the property's set up, there's no room to actually build any mitigation or do any mitigation on the property elsewhere because of the size of the property and just the way it's set up. And that's why we're going for the variance, because it's somewhat unfair in this particular instance on the property. The retaining wall, we're building the retaining wall property, you can see in some of the pictures, the property comes down off the driveway, goes down like this, and it's a barely mowable space right now, and it's, you know, just like a cliff that goes down, and if anything, you have oil, or if, you know, say if there's a leak in the car, technically the oil could wash down and go directly into the wetlands. We're trying to put a retaining wall in to raise the side lawn so it's more of a usable space. It's going to look better, and if anything, any possible contaminants that do come off the driveway would be filtered through the drainage system of the wall that we're going to build and be filtered before it even enters the wetland. So it's almost a mitigation in itself. So that's about it.
Okay. We have read your materials. I know I'm familiar with the property because
Yeah.
I live in the neighborhood.
Right.
Has everybody had a chance to get a look at this particular lot?
Yeah.
For the folks at home, this is a lot that is sort of tucked in the back corner of a circle on Huckins Drive. It is well below grade, slopes back from the road, and also the property is backed up to the west by some significant swamp wetland area. And it's a small lot with,
Correct.
I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
And there's a significant drop-off almost immediately from the road into the drainage swale area that you're referring to. Can you give us a sense, particularly for the folks at home, how big the retaining wall is going to be and how long it's
Roughly
going to be?
90 feet long. The max height at the highest point will be about 5.5 feet, and that's going to taper down to, I mean, you know, about a foot up at the smallest points. And then we'll add fill behind that and try and raise up the lawn so it's, you know.
And because of the size of the lot and the way it's configured, there's really no opportunity there's no real upland area to give over in compensation
Correct.
for the,
Correct. And as you said, it's tucked back in the corner, you know, and there's other,
yeah.
well, you get the wetlands around it. Yeah, there's just, the way it's set up, there's nowhere you could mitigate.
Yeah, and the house, if I remember right, immediately to the south is well above the point
Yes.
of where the Valinskis are, so they have water draining down through their property, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. Does anybody, I just wanted to clarify that so folks at home understand that there are conditions on this property that are.
Yeah, it's a unique situation, for sure.
Does anybody else have questions? I'm sorry to monopolize the discussion.
Not at this point.
Wayne?
No. I can make a motion, though, because I'm not, I don't have a problem with this, so I can make a motion.
Okay. I think what I'm going to suggest is that the record reflect that what we're doing is adopting the material that's been submitted to us in our own observations of the property, and incorporating that as our findings relative to the 5 variance criteria.
I think the applicants should read the criterias for the public,
Sure.
Sure.
the 5 criterias. I think they should be read so that it'll be on record to the public.
Very good. No problem.
I'm going to read them right out of the printout that I have, which says criteria 1, for instance. Criteria 1, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Was that right out of the application? Okay.
The narrative that was attached.
Correct, okay. Yeah, the proposed wall construction does not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance and does not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, threaten public health, safety, or welfare, or otherwise injure public rights. Proposed wall construction does not conflict with the explicit or implicit purpose of the ordinance, as the ordinance is written in order to protect the wetlands of Newmarket, which is why we're here. The existing wetlands buffers where construction will take place are more likely man-made due to the years of lack of maintenance of the culvert opening under the town road. According to the homeowner, when first installed, the culvert opening was visible coming out of the side of the hill. Over the years, sediment has built up over the culvert opening and has created a mound which now covers the opening. And I'm pretty sure a skunk lives in there now, to be honest with you. Seriously.
Can I just ask you?
Not after tonight.
It does still drain in heavy rains for the most part.
That's what I was going to ask, is what impact will the proposed construction have on the drainage through the culvert? Will it have any impact at all?
Not at all. If anything, it would potentially direct it more, more into the wetlands, but I don't think it would change anything at all.
Where does the culvert come from? I tried to find that.
It's further up the street.
Is it on the same side of the street?
It's on the
or-
left side. If you continue to exit the neighborhood, it's a
Yeah.
one-way, and you come around and you exit. Right as you're exiting, it's on the left. You can see one of the main drains, and that comes down and cuts all the way across under the road. It's quite a distance before it comes out down the other side, and that's water coming from further up the neighborhood, heading right down to the wetlands.
Are you going to, not that it's your job in any way, it's your job, but are you going to
Clean.
relieve that a little bit,
I spoke with,
Rick?
Rick?
yeah, and he's apparently not here.
No.
And he had said after we do all the construction and get out of there and clean up, they'll be able to come in, his department will be able to come in and clean that all up since we're already in there. Yeah, and they'll clean it up. I don't know if they're going to put
It
a new
really
pipe
is
or
their
not.
job to do that.
Sure,
But I mean,
yeah.
there's about, what, that much of the pipe showing and a hole about that big, and it's
Yeah,
a water fountain, I would imagine, at this point.
yeah. If anything, the water's bubbling up, and it used to come up the side of the hill, I believe. So it's been a long time. And then I talked with, I spoke with, I don't know who it was, one of the departments, but they said, well, as it says in here, that may have led to the wetlands kind of creeping up over time, changing the whole way things are. If that thing was draining the way it should have been, it would probably keep things further back. However, but that was one thing they recommended might be, causing the problem of having the wetlands be closer to where we are.
Right.
If it was clean, they might not even be in our way. and
Wetlands are
this might
creeping
not
onto
even
the
be an issue.
property.
Correct.
As a result of the insufficient drainage caused by the
The
culvert
sediment
not
buildup
being, right,
in the culvert,
not
right,
draining properly. Because it's not maintained properly.
right, and that's what it says.
No, I don't agree with that,
Probably.
but anyway, it,
Right.
I think there's been a lot of paving of impervious and a lot of impervious surfaces in the area, and that has increased the runoff. So that's why the wetland has expanded in
Right.
size.
Okay,
so in other words, you're feeding the
They're
wetland.
feeding the
Right,
wetland.
feeding.
Yeah.
I
Right.
got you.
Right.
And Rick Malasky has been out, looked at the site, and doesn't have a problem with what the applicant is recommending for proposal.
Sorry.
So the next part, the proposed wall does not alter the essential character of the neighborhood and in fact will improve the aesthetics of the neighborhood and improve use and function of the area as well. The proposed wall does not threaten public health and will decrease the risk of potential harmful chemicals reaching the existing wetlands, as I said. Currently, any rain and/or potentially hazardous materials and chemicals that may leak or be dispelled from any vehicle parked in the driveway can drain off the driveway surface over the existing slope and swiftly to the wetlands outback. The construction of the proposed wall will provide improved filtration as it drains down the new grade toward the wall through the approximate 6 feet to 9 feet of new loam. That surface area we're talking about, backfill, filter fabric, drainage stone, and drain pipes that will be installed as part of and behind the wall unit, the new wall unit. The proposed wall does not necessarily alter the safety or welfare or otherwise injure public rights. The new wall will be a taller height, roughly 5 feet from top grade of the wall to bottom grade below wall, where people could potentially fall from. So that's one thing, we do have a potential concern of once we build the wall, so we may have to put a fence up or something like that, but that's where hopefully you guys come in, we find out what needs to be done there. With this in mind, people are just as likely to fall from the existing hill ridge as it is very steep right now. Like I said, you can barely even mow it. Criterion 2, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because, as the following wetlands ordinance states, should I read that whole thing there? Sure. A, the purpose, wetlands are a critical natural resource that affect water quality, flooding, wildlife, recreation, and aesthetics, and their protection is a goal of the master plan of Newmarket. Wetlands protect surface water quality by reducing runoff, allowing for the deposit of sediment and nutrients. Wetlands protect shorelines from erosion. Wetlands absorb water during times of flooding, thus helping to reduce floodwater elevation. Wetlands help to maintain the quality of groundwater recharge, provide habitat for a wide variety of wildlife, including fish, birds, deer, and other animals. Wetlands contribute to a broad range of recreational opportunities, including canoeing, hunting, fishing, and birdwatching. Wetlands contribute to the aesthetic values of the town, providing for open space, natural vistas, landform contrast, and early autumn foliage. These purposes, in combination with the fact that wetlands are often ill-suited to development activities, demonstrate why the long-term protection of wetlands contributes greatly to the welfare of the community. Our wall construction project will help maintain the wetlands by filtering potential hazardous materials from entering the wetlands via the asphalt driveway. It will also help prevent further erosion of the existing hill into the wetlands. The wall will add to the functionality of the front lawn and aesthetics of the existing property, as the wall will be constructed of natural boulders and stones. Criterion 3. Or do we have any questions, perhaps, or statements? Or
No.
Granting the variance would do substantial justice because the benefit to the homeowner and neighborhood will not be outweighed by harm to the general public or to other individuals. The benefit to the homeowner is that they will have a more normal usable front lawn similar to the other properties in the neighborhood, and will add value to the property and neighborhood with such a lawn and aesthetically pleasing wall. Currently, the homeowners cannot use or enjoy their front lawn area for very much, as it is a very narrow space between the driveway and the edge of the existing hill. Additionally, it is almost impossible to mow. Other than a few days of noise during construction, we cannot see any other harm the wall construction might cause. We only anticipate positive results for all people involved, and especially for the wetlands. Criterion 4, if the variance were granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished. Real estate experts agree that every dollar you put into your yard eventually will return $1 to $2 when you sell. This is generally known in the landscaping industry, and I have seen this firsthand with several of my landscape clients. For instance, one of our clients hired us, Adams Eden's Creative Landscape Construction, to build a garden wall made of natural fieldstone in downtown Portsmouth. The entire project cost about $3,000. This property was reassessed after the completion of the wall. The wall alone increased the property value by $15,000 according to the assessment. Therefore, the proposed retaining wall at 32 Huckins Drive will only add value to the property there, and by improving the aesthetics of the existing area will improve the look and value of the neighborhood, not diminishing any aspect of the neighborhood at all. The location of the proposed wall will be quite visible to the neighboring homes and people driving around the neighborhood. And everybody's going to drive around it. It's a one-way. In our opinion, the look of the new natural stone boulder wall will be much more aesthetically pleasing than the existing grassy and weedy slope, which also includes old stumps from the previous tree removal. The value of 32 Huckins Drive property will surely improve and, in effect, improve the value of the neighborhood properties as well. The proposed wall area in front of the house, sloping down and away from the driveway, is currently unusable space. After the wall is constructed, the final grade will be significantly raised and quite flat, though it will be slightly graded to allow for proper drainage as well. The new wall will provide for a normal front lawn and will be able to be used by the homeowners and their family. This new additional lawn area will increase the property's value and usable outdoor space. It will aid in improving the look of the front of the property. It will be a beautiful focal point for neighbors, visitors, and potential new homeowners driving through the neighborhood. Additionally, the new wall will include a set of stairs allowing for safer access to the mowed area below. Any comments in there at all? Good. Criterion number 5, unnecessary hardship. Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property, because the property does not allow for proper wetland mitigation. The size of the property and where it is located relative to the existing wetlands does not allow for proper mitigation according to the way the current zoning ordinance is written. This is explained in the letter dated November 28th, 2011 by the Newmarket Conservation Commission as well. They state that, quote, the lot is very small and is greatly impacted by configuration, existing wetlands, man-made and natural, the drainage easement, and existing development conditions, unquote. Further, the ordinance 5.03 section F3 calls for perpetual protection of an area of off-site wetlands of a greater, equal, or higher functional value located in an open space priority area, as denoted and the Newmarket Open Space Conservation Plan in a way that is proportional to the size and functionality of the impacted wetlands. With that statement in mind, it is impossible to create such a mitigation and/or proposal on this lot. And the proposed use is a reasonable one because the existing slope and proposed area is virtually unusable, unmowable, and not aesthetically pleasing. The proposed retaining wall will be built correctly as the builder, Adam Cullinane of Adams Edens, which is me, is an experienced builder and certified by the National Concrete Masonry Association, which teaches builders proper structural construction procedures, proper equipment usage, and material requirements when building retaining walls. The wall will be built using natural boulders and stones, which will blend well with the surrounding environment. When the wall is complete, it will only benefit the wetlands area, given the substantial drainage and filtration system that will be installed behind and within the wall. In a sense, this wall is a form of mitigation in itself. At the very least, it will be an improvement of the existing terrain that is currently playing a role in affecting the wetlands in a potentially negative fashion.
You read that beautifully, thank you.
Could you read that again?
I will. I'll go all day. I've read this thing several times.
No, it's
Criteria 1.
Good job.
Just joking.
it's helpful for the folks at home,
Well, yeah.
as Mr. Shelton has pointed out, and I agree with the findings of the Conservation Commission that are referred to there based on my own observations of the property.
Good. Just dumb question, probably not impacting this, but couldn't the town institute a mechanism for lots like this where they make a contribution to the conservation fund to purchase wetlands down the road as a part
Well,
of the
that's
mitigation
one of
plan?
that's one of the options, but that, for such a small area of impact, I didn't really feel it was appropriate for them to do
Okay.
that.
And
Necessary.
again, excuse me.
How large of an area were you impacting? Figured that out.
Within the 25-foot buffer, I think it was about 17
15 to 20 feet.
feet within the buffer.
Okay.
So, you're not going to buy a piece of
No,
conservation land?
and again, if anything, I mean, in this situation where mitigating in itself, the wall in itself is a mitigation, I
Well,
mean,
I'm just a
we're
big
building a
advocate of
drainage.
protecting wetlands in general. so
Oh, correct, yeah, I hear you, yeah.
Whatever we can do
Makes
to
sense.
get wetlands away from development, I'm happy.
Yeah, I hear you, yeah, that makes sense.
That's a good thing to take under advisement, for sure. Richie, did you have a comment?
I would agree that we probably got one of the most complete responses for the 5 criterias that come before us than many years, and the Newmarket Conservation Commission is going along with it, that I don't see any problems with granting
really
the
appreciate
first
that.
variance.
Are we,
South.
yep. And when we get back to the motion, we'll have to clarify whether we're acting on one, should we act on them separately or together?
Separately,
Okay,
the 2 different variances.
very good.
Did we really discuss the Conservation Commission letter? I mean, for the public, I guess, just,
No, but
we all know about it, but...
I think he summarized the key findings in his description, but if you want to comment further on it, Wayne, please
Well,
feel
I
free.
just wanted to comment that they are basically, well, I'll quote from somewhere I saw, the commission does support the use of natural boulders for the retaining wall and would encourage construction methods be employed. So basically, this
They're in favor.
one-page letter is they're in favor of it, and I just wanted to bring that to everyone's
Yep.
Yeah.
attention.
Okay.
Are you looking for a motion?
I think Wayne put one, and I forgot what it was.
No, I didn't. but-
Yeah, he had mentioned that he was going to put
Oh,
one
so you said
ahead.
we're going to do one at a
If
time?
he didn't, I had one that I could prepare.
I would make a motion that we approve, how am I going to word this?
just read the numbers.
Well, yeah, variance for Joseph and Elizabeth Valensky for property located at 32 Hutchins Drive, tax map R5, lot 107, R2 zone, for section 5.03, C4 of the zoning ordinance, as the proposed construction will impact a 25-foot buffer around soils considered to be poorly drained, or Hydric B wetland soils. And then we'll do the next one in another motion, right?
Right. I'll second the motion.
Mr. Shelton, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous.
I'd like to make a motion on the second variance.
Please, Mr. Shelton.
As the existing retaining wall for many years has been located in the existing wetland area, and the proposed retaining wall, of which approximately 17 to 20 feet will be a continuation of that wall that is in the wetlands area, the mitigation of the wetlands to this lot at 32 Huckins Drive, which in area is only .44 of an acre, with wetlands predominating the rear property. As this site is not conducive to replacing the impacted wetlands as shown on the map on the property, and it is a statement of fact that by the improvements associated with the impacted wetlands will have no negative effect to the area, that the functional value are much greater than the impacted wetland, that any mitigation proposal not be required.
I second that.
And to grant the variance from the special use requirements of 5.03.
Section 503F.
Yep.
2 and 3.
And we have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Diane, will you draw up the appropriate findings and documents for the applicant?
Mr. Shelton, would you mind sharing your notes with me?
Yeah, I would do that.
That'd be helpful.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You don't have to go home, and you don't have to stay here. Entirely up to you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll watch at home.
Now 13. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Discussion and first reading of amendments to the zoning board of adjustment rules of procedure.
Right, keep one. Myself.
And Sue does the minutes.
Well, now, when this says discussion and first reading, I'm not actually going to read this.
No, you don't have to. And what I did was I printed out, I made one slight change to what Sue had originally given you, and that's in the amendments section. And I think it reads a little bit better than it did the last time.
What page?
I'm on page 8. So it now reads, "The rules of procedure shall be adopted or amended by a majority vote at a regular meeting of the board, provided such new rules or amendments is proposed." A word proposed and discussed at a prior meeting of the members of the board. Does that make sense to everyone? So in other words, you have to do it in 2 meetings.
Yes. You have an introduction of the proposed amendment, then you have acting on the proposed amendment at the following meeting, or whatever meeting the board deems to be appropriate. But there's at least 2 meetings.
That's correct. And then I found one typo. Other than that, I thought it read very well. It's consistent, so.
Is this the time for discussion of it?
Absolutely. This is first reading, we're not going to act on it tonight, but this is the time to bring issues onto the table.
Order of business, page 4. Call to order and then pledge of allegiance.
Yeah, the pledge of allegiance is there.
And then
We don't really do a roll call. I mean, I look around and I see who's here and who's conscious.
For pledge of allegiance.
And this is more a question than on page 7, decisions. The board shall decide all cases within 14 days. Is that?
I don't think that's required. I think that might be a carryover from the last,
Within 14 days of what?
where are we, page 7?
Page 7.
I don't think that's in the RSA's, because I don't think there is a time frame. I think it's carryover from the previous set of.
We don't want to lock ourselves into a time frame if we don't need to.
I know.
We always
Yeah, I
act,
think
we always
that-
try to act within a reasonable time on everything.
Yeah, I don't think there is a time frame. I would suggest we do that.
Where do you see 14 days, Wayne?
Number 4,
For-
first sentence.
Oh, I see. I was looking for the number 14.
So carry over.
I think way back when we had some real heavy things before the board, that we heard the whole case and then we adjourned. 2 members would write the decisions based on
Right.
on the criteria given by the other members, and then come back with their findings of fact at a later meeting. I think it was always within 2 weeks.
Okay, but there's nothing in the
Well, no,
state
but that's-
statute, so,
I'm
I
not
mean, it's up
sure.
to the board.
Well, that's
I
a
think
good-
you should.
That's a real good procedure. I mean, why not stick with that?
You know, if you've got something real difficult and
Yeah.
and you've got to, research
Yeah,
it
but
and
you may want to
investigate.
you may want to have more time than 14 days.
Well,
to
you may,
investigate.
but I don't think there was, we always tried to do it within 2 weeks way back, but, if you had something real,
So that's
Something
brought
else.
up in item number 5. Is that what you're saying?
Right. It ties into 5.
On page 7?
yeah.
I think that's what you're saying.
That's a real good procedure. We haven't had anything that requires us to,
No, like tonight was
fairly straightforward.
straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hearing what,
I think some of those came through when they had that first application for the mill redevelopment,
Mhm.
and that's where we
You
had a...
needed more than
more than
14 days
one.
to review
Yeah,
that.
I
It
think
seemed to me it was
took-
like
it
3
ran into
meetings.
months,
Yeah.
But,
And an
I don't
application of that magnitude should.
right.
well, is there anything in here that says that the board can waive the requirements of its rules under appropriate circumstances? So if you need to have 30 days, you
Yeah.
can take 30 days.
Yeah.
But I think that's hearing the rationale behind it, that's a real good rule to keep that in there, so I would just
Yeah.
keep that in there. But we should have the ability, under appropriate circumstances, to waive the 14-day
Right.
period if we think we need to.
Even times where you might want some legal counsel.
Yeah, exactly.
You
And
know.
that's
Well, we got it
with
right
the
here.
mill.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but when we did the mill,
Yeah.
we did have
You only
legal
know what you
counsel
pay for.
actually review the.
There is a waiver section here.
There is a.
On
yeah.
page 8.
Yeah. Any portion of these rules may be waived in such cases where, in the opinion of the board, strict conformity
That's
would
perfect.
pose
That
a
covers-
practical
Yeah.
difficulty to the applicant, and a waiver would not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the rules.
We always act
Covered.
timely because it's fair. But we don't want to act hastily
Right?
because that doesn't do anybody any good either. So do we have the appropriate flexibility
And I-
based on what this says?
I think 14 days is a very short time frame.
Yeah,
I
well,
would-
yeah, you could,
30
I
days
think there
might
was
be more
some time
reasonable.
where we were gonna have it at the next scheduled meeting, which
Yeah.
was 30 days away.
Right.
No, it's easy. Whenever this comes up, we just ask Richie to draft it.
Yeah.
He just volunteered. It's part of his, because he's diligent. and-
Has this board ever had a joint meeting with,
Didn't we
Planning
have a
board?
joint meeting with the planning board?
No,
We wanted to at one
we
point,
never,
and,
I can't never remember having one.
no.
I
I've
could've
done it for a
sworn we
number of
did.
years.
I think we talked about
We
it,
talked about it, we decided that it
Chris.
wasn't.
I know we
a good
talked
idea.
about
Maybe
it.
I'm thinking of the planning board, the school board and the town council.
No, we talked,
Planning
we
board
did.
and the town council have had joint meetings.
Yeah, no, we
before.
talked about it for some reason. I know we did.
We're not invited to the good stuff. We're too thorough and professional. Mostly.
I mean, do we want to change the time period? I mean, with using Diane's suggestion,
Or I
to 30
think
days?
Either 30 days or at the next regularly scheduled
That's what it
meeting.
was, at the next regular scheduled meeting, which is always within 30 days if you've got something on the docket.
I'm happy with 14, I'm happy with 30. If 30 gives us the flexibility we need, then let's do 30.
Sometimes it's hard to get everyone together for.
Sure, yeah.
Okay?
No, I think what we do
Well,
is,
I think your decisions have to be reheard within 30 days, doesn't it? Isn't there a limit on that? No, there's, you
You
can
have to
carry
put it on the agenda within 30
Oh,
days.
on the
But you
agenda.
don't have to take action within 30
Okay.
days.
right. Well, it's simple. Whenever this stuff comes up, we just assign it to Bill. That's what you get when you don't show up.
Okay.
Make Bill read this thing.
As long as it's not the new guy.
New guy's supposed to bring donuts. Didn't we talk about this? New guy brings donuts.
Failing to do that, he's gonna buy
So-
first round of Riverworks.
So we'll say change
I'd rather do
14 to
that.
30.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else? This has been in the works for some time.
With last meeting, there was some question on the version. We seem to have different versions of it, so we decided to postpone discussion until
Yeah.
tonight.
We've got to, as has been pointed out, we just got to make sure our agendas conform to what this actually says.
Would you like me to make these changes and
Yeah.
get another draft out
Yeah.
to you for the
I
next
don't,
meeting?
I don't see the point of a roll call by the clerk, because you're either here or you're not, and we can all see that. Communications, we typically handle under new or old business, as the case may be.
But she does take a roll call because you listed at the top of the minutes, so
Yeah.
you take an informal
But I don't see
roll call.
Wayne Rosa
No, I agree, I agree.
here.
But it is done.
Yeah.
Yeah. and she-
Okay.
and Diane does it.
Okay. Anything else? In terms of our rules? Okay, subject to the amendments that we've discussed here tonight and the suggestions, I'm going to ask Diane to make the changes and then bring this forward at our next regularly scheduled meeting for second reading and further action as the board may deem appropriate. Any objection to that? Any new business or old business to come before the board? Dan, why don't you,
I just wanted to report that, if you recall, at our May 20th meeting, sorry, at our May 20th meeting, we had a discussion about whether the board wanted to rehear the case of William Pothier, 6 Bay Road, and the 30-day period for appealing that decision, which was denied, by the way. I think we all recall that. You weren't present.
actually, I voted on the approval of the May 20th meeting minutes, and I wasn't here.
That will make sure
So
we
that should be an abstain for me.
should be abstained, that's
But if
correct.
Mr. Shelton was here, his vote should be sufficient to make a quorum and
That's right.
get that through.
Okay, I'll make that modification. The 30-day appeal period has passed, and we did not receive a formal appeal in the courts. And Mr. Pothier and his attorney met with Mike Hoffman on Monday of this week to look at the existing building and to try to figure out how the building would be modified to bring it into compliance with the zoning board's recent decision. And they discussed a number of different options. And they're going back to look at some other costs associated with that. But we did receive a letter from Mr. Hogan addressed to the code enforcement officer. He's requesting that the stop order that's currently in place on that property be lifted so he can proceed with installing windows and stabilizing the structure. He also indicates that he will be doing any further work in full compliance with the recent zoning board decision, and we'll be back to the building inspector with some plans, and the building inspector is, on that basis, will be lifting the current stop work order that's in effect.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give the board an update on that.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. Anything else? Any further new or old business to come before the board at this time? Okay, none.
adjourn.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Daigle. Mr. Johnson, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, thank you.